Welcome to Trey Ranks, the Gundam television series, plus 0080 War in the Pocket, and 08MS team. I do not have Build Divers or the Origin on here, because those are not finished yet, but, we can always update the list later. But I will be ranking my favorite Gundam series based on my opinions in this list. Please let me know in the comment section down below what your favorites are, but this was requested by some of our viewers, and so I am excited to do so, because I love me some Gundam. So we're going to start off with Turn A Gundam, put it at the top. The rest of the list is not in order yet, but I've already put Turn A up there because Turn A is my favorite Gundam series. Now, at some point I want to come back and do full reviews of all of these series, but I love Turn A. I love the characters in Turn A. I love the world in Turn A. I love how Turn A isn't afraid to slow things down and let you spend some time with the characters, and it becomes that character drama that a lot of Gundam is, but with a little bit more time spent on the characters themselves. Not on all of them. There are some characters that definitely don't get the attention that they probably should have, but I absolutely love Laurent Seahawk. And the Turn A Gundam itself is really cool. Plus the animation is breathtaking. The music is amazing. I absolutely love Turn A Gundam. Following that up, I will go with the cliche answer. After Turn A, Zeta Gundam is my favorite. I love everything there is to do with Zeta, with Camille Bidan, with Jared Mesa. I think Zeta has probably my favorite rival in the entire series in the form of Jared Mesa, and I know that's blasphemy, because the best rival is Char Aznable. But I absolutely love Jared, because Jared can't ever seem to do anything right, and every time he tries, nothing good ever comes of it, and he just desperately wants to win, but it just never seems to matter how much he wants to win. And I don't want to get too much more into it because of spoilers, but I absolutely love Zeta Gundam. The writing is excellent. The characters are great. Imashine is amazing. All of the characters' interactions, and when you get to that final battle, the way that all these characters connect to each other, it's just amazing. It makes me think of the Count of Monte Cristo and the way that everything connects, and it's just so good. So I love Zeta Gundam. After Turn A and Zeta is where things get difficult for me, because I could easily tell you my favorite Gundam series and my second favorite Gundam series, but from there things get a little more open. Things can change a lot more quickly. Number 3 for me, I'm going to say, is 0080 War in the Pocket. 0080 is a lot shorter than the rest, but I absolutely adore 0080. It is just I don't know if you guys can tell by this list so far, but characters are very important to me. And 0080 it takes that time, and it lets you really get to know Bernie, and it lets you really get to know all of them. And then it comes down to that final moment in that last episode, in episode 6, where those two characters are fighting. And it hits me every time, just right here. And I love 0080. 0080 is amazing. Next up for me, now this is the one that people are really going to get upset about. Next up for me is Gundam Build Fighters. We talked about how much I love characters. Build Fighters is not for me as much about the characters as it is about the action. I absolutely love the action in Build Fighters. The fight between Fellini, oh man, I'm getting hyped just thinking about it. The fight between Fellini, Sei, and Reiji is absolutely amazing. That fight is one of my favorite fights in all of Gundam, where both combatants are just giving it everything they have, and they are tearing each other to pieces. And that is just one of many great fights in the original Build Fighters. And that is why, for me, Build Fighters is the 4th best Gundam series of all time. I absolutely love Build Fighters. And then ending out my top 5 is G Gundam. This should not be a surprise for anybody that has been keeping up with my tastes. G Gundam is a super series, super robots all the way, and I absolutely love G Gundam. Domon Kashu, the full Shuffle Alliance, Chibity Crockett, oh my gosh, Chibity Crockett. I love them. I love them so much. And as if none of that was cool enough, you have the way the first episode ends, with Domon holding up that picture and saying, "Have you seen this man?" And then the response being, What? No. Shining Fingers! Oh, I love G Gundam so much! Yeah, G Gundam gets a little weird at times. The Tequila Gundam and the Windmill Gundam. There's some weirdness going on in G Gundam, but I love the weirdness too. And I love that G Gundam doesn't take itself too seriously. And even when the moments hit that are supposed to be the, hey, these are sad moments, they're still sad moments, despite how much the series tries not to push too much into the seriousness, and I love it. The moment when Spoiler dies, I won't say the name, but the moment when Spoiler dies, anybody who sees G Gundam knows exactly what I'm talking about, is still one of those moments that sticks with me today when I think of G Gundam and how good it is. And I love G Gundam. G Gundam's great. Number 6 for me is Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. I had my qualms with Iron-Blooded Orphans when it first started coming out, but probably around episode 3 or 4, I was able to push those down and enjoy the show. And then it surprised me by making some very powerful decisions. In most Gundam series, you have the good guys and you have the bad guys, and you understand where everybody's coming from, but you're still rooting for the good guys. But there were a lot of moments in Iron-Blooded Orphans where I was still rooting for the bad guys too, and where our good guys were kind of the bad guys. And how it all culminates at the end of the series with, I'm getting emotional, at the end of the series, those characters are going to stick with me. And I honestly do really love Iron-Blooded Orphans. I didn't think it would be this high on the list when it first started coming out, but it has taken over a lot of Gundam for me. And I mean, that's not even counting how good the fights were. The fact that when they use weapons in space that aren't beam weapons, because there aren't that many beam weapons in this universe, the ballistic weapons actually have, like, gravity affects them. It's a really good series, even without all the characters. But when you reach the end of that series, those characters and their motivations mean something, and they stick with you, and I really like that. It really means a lot to me. So after that, number 7. This is where people might not like me as much. And I know I've said that on a couple of these entries, but Wing is a lot lower for me. You know, the original Gundam is not as high for me as it is for some people. 08MS Team is lower for me. But this is subjective. It's opinion. And I'm glad that we all have different opinions, and I hope that you guys will let me know your opinions down below. But number 7 for me is Gundam 00. 00 is not anywhere close to perfect. But I absolutely love Lock On Stratus, Alleluia, Haptism. Tieria is okay. I like Tieria well enough. Setsuna Fsei is amazing. Graham Acre is one of my favorite characters in all of Gundam. And then to top it all off, 00 has the best joke character in the entire series. Putting that flag down right now for my man, the immortal Cola Sour, Patrick Cola Sour. 00 would not be the same without Patrick Cola Sour, and 00 would be good without Patrick Cola Sour, but with Patrick Cola Sour, 00 is great. That's not even counting the cool stuff that goes on with the actual Meisters themselves and how they change over the course of the series. I love 00. 00 is really good. I feel like everything so far has just been, I love this series, but I really like 00. 00 is really good. And that moment at the end of Season 1 where Haro just starts talking, again, I'm being very careful of spoilers, but that moment where Haro just starts talking, that moment sticks with me so much. It's great. It's absolutely great. After that, for me, this is where things start getting really hard for me. I think after 00, for me, would probably be the original Gundam. Mobile Suit Gundam. Mobile Suit Gundam, A lot of people say it's hard to watch. I disagree. I think it's still just as easy to watch now as it was then. It definitely has some very obvious flaws. The Zaccarello is the first one that I can think of. But the dynamic between Amuro and Char that bleeds into the rest of Universal Century Gundam, the dynamic those two characters have, the introduction of Lala Soon, the way that Amuro is forced to grow up over the course of that series, and what winds up being the actual goals that some of the villains had. I love it, man. It's so good. Original Gundam, First Gundam is great. And it's still one of those few things where I can say, hey, you've never seen Gundam before? Check this out. The animation's a little old, but check it out. And when they reach the end of the first episode, and they've seen all that destruction and all that devastation that's been caused, they go, whoa. It's like, yeah, it's dark, but it's great. First Gundam's really good. After First Gundam for me would probably be... X. X is really weird and really strange, and there's a lot of things about X that I kind of wish weren't there. As much as I love new type dolphins, that didn't really need to be a thing. But at the same time, the story of Garen Ran, and, you know, the way his relationship works out with Tifa, and Jamil Neat being there. Even if they were the only characters, X would be really good. But then you get all the other characters that are introduced, and you get all the other factions that all have things they're pushing for. And towards the end, I felt like X kind of went off the rails and jumped a couple times forward than it needed to, but for the most part, X was a really enjoyable ride, and I absolutely love it. Next up for me would be... Next up for me would probably be Unicorn. To continue in the same vein, there's a lot about Unicorn I don't like. Banagher's really cool, and I really like him. I love Full Frontal and Angelo Salper. I don't really like Audrey Byrne that much, and Riddy Marcinus is probably my least favorite rival in the entire series. But Marita Cruz is absolutely amazing. Everything to do with her and Zinnerman and Banagher's impact on their lives, and finding out the mystery at the end of the series and what's going on with Laplace Box, getting to learn all that cool stuff about Dagusa and then everything that happens with him. I really liked Unicorn. It was really good. Despite Riddy Marcinus and Audrey Byrne. And maybe you guys liked them. Again, let me know in the comment section below if Riddy Marcinus is your favorite character and I have completely alienated you. But, you know, let me know. Next up for me would probably be Age. I mentioned a couple times earlier of like, oh, you guys might not like this one. People hate Age, and I get why. Age has a lot of bad in it, and putting Age over Wing probably ruined my credibility forever. Age has a lot of bad in it. In fact, I dare say the entire back half of Age is terrible. Everything to do with Kyo and his interactions with some of the really cool characters that are introduced is just worse. I hate Kyo so much because he's not afraid to jeopardize everybody's lives for the sake of his own values, and that could be really cool, but instead it's not done in a cool way. It's kind of just thrown away. Age introduces characters at weird moments and expects you to care about them, and they're the focal point of an episode even though you've never met them before. But for all that Age has flaws with, Age has some of the coolest characters and some of the coolest moments in all of Gundam for me. Wolf Iniakal is the best mentor character in the entire series, in my opinion. He's so cool. He's so dumb. I love him. He's not afraid to tell you exactly how he feels. He's got a weird color scheme thing. He's a little bit of a misogynist, but I absolutely love Wolf Iniakal. Then there's Obright. Asumu winds up turning out okay, despite being really stupid at the start. I love Flit. Flit is amazing. And everything that happens at the end of part 1 of Age with Flit, and that moment where Flit goes ballistic, I love the start of Age. And I love the start of Age enough that the end of Age doesn't bother me as much as it does other people. I understand why people are mad, and they have every right to be. Age just threw itself away. And I had such high hopes for Age. But the start of Age is so good that I can let just about all that slide. And I probably shouldn't. It probably should be lower out of just respect. But I can't help what I like. If I like it, I like it. And I like it for, in my opinion, good reasons. Now, it would be a little bit lower for Sarek Abyss alone and the way he's treated. But I'll bring that up again in a little bit with the way some other characters are treated in other series. Next for me, though, is Wing. Wings. I grew up watching Wing, as most people did, and it was good then. But as I got older, I questioned, well, was it just good because nostalgia, or was it actually good? So I went back and rewatched it a couple years ago. Wing is really good. It has its flaws, for sure, and some character motivations kind of jump a little bit, looking at you, Dorothy Catalonia, but Trace Cushionata, Zex Marquis, those are some of the best villains in the entire franchise right there. Like, Zex is a pretty good villain. Trace Cushionata is hands down one of the best Gundam villains of all time. Trace is amazing. And the fact that the series ends the way it does, and where Trace is at in that series at the ending, still boggles my mind today. Like, how could you do that? And it's a good how could you do that. It's a, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And people who've watched Wing absolutely know what I'm talking about. But man, Trace is great. And so are the rest of the characters. Hiro gets on my nerves a little bit. And that's probably just because the first couple episodes, after the first couple episodes, he mellows out. And actually, you figure out what's going on with him. And he becomes a pretty good character. But I love Duo. I love Troa. I love Catra. I like Wu Fei. Wu Fei definitely also has some problems. But I like Wu Fei well enough. He's like the Thierry Arde of the group for me. It's like, yeah, I like him well enough. He's not great. And I probably wouldn't, go out on a limb for him. But I like him well enough. But yeah, Wing's really good. And especially when you get into like the upgrades that the suits get, mid-season upgrade stuff. And the Tallgeese, man, the Tallgeese is absolutely amazing. Now this is completely separated from Endless Waltz. If we put Endless Waltz in here, because it's a movie and I want to do a ranking of Gundam movies another time, if we put Endless Waltz in here, the list would probably go up. Wing would probably go up higher on the list. But this is not counting Endless Waltz, and this is not counting Frozen Teardrop or any of the other manga based on Wing. Because definitely if it included Frozen Teardrop and the rest of the manga and Endless Waltz, Wing would be a lot higher on this list for me. Because I love where some of those stories go. But Wing in and of itself is really good. Especially when you get into like that back half with the mobile dolls. And I'm going to stop for spoiler's sake, but man, Wing's really good. So after Wing for me, would probably be 08th MS Team. 08th MS Team is that series that should be higher on everybody's list for the Norris Packard fight alone. But it's a little bit lower on my list because as much as we talked earlier about how much I love Gundam series that slow down and spend time with characters, and 08th MS Team does that. I love some of the characters on the 08th MS Team. I feel like we never really got a lot of time just spent figuring out Shiro. Shiro at the start of the series and Shiro at the end of the series is still very similar to who he was. There's only really that fight with Norris that gives him, a reason to push forward. And that's never really resolved. Like, we get to see Shiro in episode 1 and he's really cool. And then by the end of episode 8, it's just like, okay, it's Shiro. He's still being Shiro Amada, and I like Shiro Amada, don't get me wrong, but he never really got the character development that Karen and Michael, Mikhail, and all the others got. And for me, Shiro and Aina both being kind of undeveloped really took away a lot of my enjoyment, especially when you get into that final moment at the end, and it's just like, okay, I guess I'm glad that all worked out. Other than that, though, I love OVAS team. Like, I love Karen, I love Mikkel, I love Miller. OVAS team's really good, especially when you get into all the stuff about, like, yeah, you know, this guy on this team is, all his teammates that he's ever went with are killed. And it's like, man, Samson doesn't deserve that. Come on. But Sanders, not Samson. Sanders doesn't deserve that. Come on. But the fight with Norris is so good that I can't help but put it up, even though I do have some problems with it. And it should be above Double Zeta right now. That's definitely not where Double Zeta is supposed to be. We'll get to Double Zeta in a minute. After that, I would probably give it to Victory. Victory Gundam is really enjoyable. And were it not for a thing that happens right at the end of Victory, where one of my favorite characters is put into a really bad situation, again, I'm avoiding spoilers, I would probably like Victory a whole lot more. But Victory also has my least favorite villain in all of Gundam, which is Katojina Loose. I absolutely despise Katojina, and I can't get past that like I need to when it comes to ranking it. I can get past it well enough to talk about it and enjoy Victory. And in fact, I've gone back and watched Victory quite a few times, and I really like Victory. But as good as Uso is, as good as Odilo is, as good as Shakti and the Shrike team, and all of like, there's so much good in Victory. But I just hate Katojina. And so, unfortunately for me, that really does hold Victory back from being higher up on the list. You want to talk about hating a character? Oh boy! We'll hold on to that. Next up for me is Seed. Seed has a ton of problems, but I like Seed well enough. Kira was fine in Seed. There were definitely some moments, specifically the moment where he's crying towards the end of Seed. That moment kind of stands out to me. We should go, But there were some really powerful moments in Seed. Or else this pain I feel will never go away. He played the piano. There are some really good moments in Seed. But it's all undercut by Flay Alster, talking about hating the character, Flay Alster, Kigali, oh man, Kigali, and the unfortunate rivalry between Athrun Zala and Kira. And having the rivalry itself is fine, and there are some really cool moments that happen because of it. But when I think of Seed, the first thing I think of is that moment where Kira and Athrun are both staring at each other when they first meet again. And, like, in my head, all I hear is reunited. And their dynamic would be really good if it was played in a different way. But unfortunately, it becomes, he's my friend, but he's my enemy. He's my friend, but he's my enemy. Look at Suzaku and Lelouch from Code Geass. Say what you will about the other problems Code Geass has, because it does have some. But look at the dynamic of their relationship. And if Kira and Athrun's had been like that, it would have been so much better, in my opinion. I'm not saying it has to be a copy-paste, but have it where they can help each other if they need to, but at the same time, they still kind of hate each other, even though they still remember their friendships. They've both done a lot of things. And that moment where he played the piano happens. For me, that was the climax of that. We hate each other, and then it didn't stop after that for a long time, and that really irks me. And then, man, you get into poor Sai, man. Poor Sai did not get treated right in that series. You get into all that, and towards the end, where it starts to go, and there's just a lot about Seed I don't like, but at the same time, Seed has Mulaflaga, and were it not for Wolf and Yakko, Mulaflaga would be the single best mentor in the entire series. So, you know, it's a toss-up. After that, I've been putting it off. After that is 0083, Stardust Memory. I don't like a lot of things in Stardust Memory. I think Ko is fine. South Burning's really cool. Ko is fine. Gato is really cool. Everybody else is kind of the worst. I guess Ko's friend is okay, who pilots the gun cannon, too, but, man, everybody else is kind of terrible. Get into Nina, and you get into, man, I don't even want to name them all off. Like, I don't even want to try and remember all their names, because I didn't like most of the characters in 0083. And, like, yeah, Gato was really cool. And Ko was okay. But I don't know, 0083 just never really hit home for me, especially when you get to the end, where Nina Purpleton has this weird relationship going on with Gato and with Ko. And again, I won't spoil too much. But it just doesn't work for me. Because I never felt the romantic ties to any of them, really. And so you get to this big, what should be a big climactic moment, and it just goes, However, all that said, Solomon, I have returned is one of the coolest lines in all of Gundam, and I want that on a shirt. So, you know, 0083, it's not the worst. We'll get there. We'll get there. Next up for me is Double Zeta. I like Judo Ashta a whole lot. His relationship with Camille has always been one of my favorite things, and if you'll go back and watch my top 10 for 2017, you will notice that when I talk about Super Robot Wars V, one of the things I like is how they handle the relationship between Judo and Camille, because it's a thing we don't really get to see in Double Zeta. We get to see that Judo respects Camille, but he never really gets to interact with him that much. And I love Judo. Judo's really cool. For a long time, Judo Ashta was my favorite Gundam protagonist, and for a long time, Double Zeta was a whole lot higher on this list. But Moon, Bicha and Mondo, Captain Bright getting kind of slapsticked, Yazan Gable getting kind of slapsticked, and then you get into the final arc, and the stuff with Haman. I liked the Purus, and I love the Bawu. I was so happy to see Glimmy Toto introduced with the Bawu. I don't like Glimmy Toto. Mashimir Cello is okay, but most of the other characters that are introduced, I just didn't really have any care for. And then you have the, like, Ino is okay, Eno, depending on your translation, he's okay, but Bicha and Mondo are the worst. And the fact that Bicha is kind of viewed in a heroic light towards the end. What? L and Rue are both really cool, but man, there is a moment about midway through the series where Bicha and Mondo both went over the edge for me and went way too far, and it never gets addressed, and I was super salty about it for the rest of the show. I don't know. There's a lot about Double Zeta I do like. And there's a lot about Double Zeta I don't like. After that for me is Trey. Gundam Build Fighters Trey. I really like Build Fighters. Trey let me down in a lot of ways. There was some really cool stuff still, and there were some really cool moments where you got to see, really cool versions of suits. Not as much as in Build Fighters, but, I mean, you didn't get stuff like the Crossbone X Mao, but you did get some other really cool decisions, like bringing in the X1, the full cloth. You got to see some really cool kit bashes of, like, the Lightning Gundam, and as cool as all that was, every fight became Sekai doing something, and everybody else just backing him up. And as much as I love G Gundam, it didn't feel like G Gundam. There were moments where, and I've had Trey higher on in the past, but I rewatched all of Trey gearing up to rank all of this. And there are moments in Trey where it looks like another character's going to get to something really cool, and then Sekai does it instead. And I didn't like that at all. The GM Cardigan was such a cool design. And to push that aside for the winning Gundam, so that Fumina could boost the lightning and the build burning, it just, man, I didn't like it at all. And Trey has the Tryon 3, which is now my favorite suit in all of Gundam. But I still had to put it this low. Because unlike Age, where I can say, yeah, the back half was terrible, but the first half was really good, I can't look at you and say, Build Fighters Trey is amazing because the Tryon 3's in it. There was a lot that was good about Trey, but there was a lot more I didn't like. And even the moments where it looked like things were going to get super cool of like assaulting a castle, it just becomes, okay, let's hit the castle really hard with stuff. After that, for me, is probably the hardest decision on this entire list. Which sounds ridiculous, I know. But which one do I put at the bottom? Destiny Gundam or Reconquista NG? Next up for me is Gundam Seed Destiny. I'm sorry, Jabman025. I'm so sorry. I don't like Destiny Gundam. There's some really cool stuff in there of like the idea of introducing a brand new character who's not happy with Kira because of the stuff that happened in the first Seed, in Seed itself. I really liked Shin Asuka when he was first introduced because he was kind of a brat and the series knew that and everybody called him out on it and it was really cool. And seeing like Athrun having to try and work with him and the two of them come into like a friendship and everything going great. And Chairman Durandal was really cool, and the Requiem plan was really cool, but taking the series away from Shin, undoing some of the best character deaths in Seed and some of the entire series, and making Kira the main character again without actually giving him any character growth. So when he's introduced in Destiny, and at the end of Destiny, he is the same character that he was at the end of Seed, and nothing has changed. No. How dare you? How dare you steal Shin's spotlight and give it to Kira, and then not write Kira any development at all? How dare you take all the development that you'd built for Athrun throughout the first half of Destiny and throw it away and make Athrun Kira's speaker so that he just repeats everything that Kira says? How dare you? Destiny could have been so good. Destiny has some really cool Gundam designs. The Gaia is like a beefed up Baku and I love it. But man, you just threw it all away. You may say, well, how could you hate anything more than you hate Destiny? I don't hate Destiny, and I don't hate Reconquista NG. But man, Reconquista NG has a lot of problems. If you were to ask me what my least favorite Gundam series was, I would say Reconquista NG. Bellry Zenom, at no point, was likable to me. Like, I get what they're going for. He's a kid who's running around doing stuff. He's very much like Garrett in that he does what he wants to do. But unlike Garrett, he doesn't have that, the mischievous streak is there, but it doesn't feel like, well, yeah, it's rooted to a character who actually has concerns. Because most of the time, Bellry is just smiling. Then you have the fact that Bellry switches sides so many times and never gets called on for it, never seems to regret it. When you have moments in other Gundam series that I won't name for spoilers, where characters switch sides, it's this monumental thing. And there is a main character in a different Gundam series that switches sides multiple times, and it is treated as a gigantic thing. Because it is, what is he doing with them? Why is he with them? By the end of Reconquista NG, Bellry has been on basically everybody's side. Nobody's wrong. And everybody's treated like heroes? Even though everybody's fighting each other. And then all of a sudden, hey, here's a new threat. This is the real threat. They're the real enemies. And then they also get treated like heroes? And at the end of the series, some of those members are just hanging out with the rest of the heroes like everything was fine? Even though this was a threat that could destroy the entire world? And there's a lot about Reconquista NG I love. The music in Reconquista NG is amazing. The art in Reconquista NG is amazing. I love Clem Nick. I love the Montero. I love the Jehannam. Those are all amazing. But oh my gosh. And I've heard so many people say, well, if you didn't understand Reconquista NG, you just weren't smart enough. No, I understood it. I get exactly what Tomino was going for. He wanted to show that the world is not black and white, and that people can change, and they can make decisions, and things can change, and no one side is right or wrong. I get that. But I also got that in original Gundam, and it made a lot more sense there, because Amuro was actually a character, whereas Bellry just kind of goes with the flow. I'm getting mad. I gotta bring myself back down. My biggest issue with Reconquista NG is that Bellry Zenom can do whatever he wants and no one will stop him. And there are moments where characters try, but then he just gets to do it anyway. There's a moment towards the beginning of the series where he does a thing, not on purpose, but by accident, but he does a thing to protect people that deeply scars somebody close to him. And that person brings it up 3 or 4 times, and then it's forgotten. And it's just like, how are we here? How did we get here? What led us here to this moment where we're crying because one of the main villains of the series is dying? What led us here? And you look back on that journey and goes, yeah, I get how we got here. But in storytelling, what led us here? And yeah, there's some moments that are legitimately sad. But it's just like, man, why? All that said, I do enjoy Reconquista NG. There's not a Gundam series on here I don't enjoy. I love all of Gundam, despite its flaws. I would never pick one of my children over the others. And yet here I have, in the form of a ranked list, set up my order of my favorite Gundam series, from top to bottom. Turn A Gundam, Zeta Gundam, 0080 War in the Pocket, Gundam Build Fighters, G Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, Mobile Suit Gundam 00, Mobile Suit Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam X, Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, Gundam Age, New Mobile Report Gundam Wing, 08th MS Team, Victory Gundam, Gundam Seed, Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory, Double Zeta Gundam, Gundam Build Fighters Try, Gundam Seed Destiny, and Gundam Reconquista NG. In that order are my favorite Gundam series. Let me know in the comment section down below where you agreed or disagreed. Let me know in the comment section down below your order of what Gundam series you think are the best and which ones you think are the worst. Let me know why I was wrong about Destiny, or Try, or Double Zeta, or Reconquista NG. Let me know how angry you are that Age is so high on my list, or that Iron Blooded Orphans is so high on my list, or that Wing is so low on my list. Let me know in the comment section below where you agree and disagree, and let's start a discussion about this, because I'm honestly curious. With all that said, though, I have been Trey, this has been The Full Spectrum, and remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Gundam has to offer.